Good afternoon. This is Katherine and Christoper Tipper of Hunter Benefits Consulting Group, and this is Friday afternoon bourbon edition of On the Couch.
There we go. So last Friday, we did not have bourbon because two reasons. We were taping in the morning before lunch, and the reason for that was we both had doctor's appointments in the afternoon, so we didn't think we'd show up day drinking. But I have a very specific reason to have bourbon today, and so here's to you, and here's to my dad. My dad passed last Saturday. That's why we've got the lovely flowers on the table here, and these are from BMO Pro, our IT company. So thank you, BMO. And I guess it's time to move on to the mundane stuff.
Yeah, mundane but important.
Mundane but important. So, all right. So one more. Here's to your dad. I actually didn't like bourbon, but I do. So that's all right.
You'll drink a share.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to talk about how to fix a bad retirement plan. No, this is going to be a very short video, trust me. All right. The idea for this video came up on Labor Day Monday. I was reading in the business section. An article was entitled "How to Fix a Bad Retirement Plan." So I know what I thought what the plan was going to be about. What do you think the article really was about?
Well, a lot of times when people talk about bad plans, they're like, well, what are the investments and what's happening in the market? And is that whether it's good or bad?
Right. So most of the articles that you see in the press, when they're talking about a bad retirement plan, they're only worried about one thing: investment fees. All right.
Which it has its place.
Yeah, but being a compliance geek, a bad plan means bad compliance. All right, and there's a certain there's a couple of federal agencies that are very concerned about this.
And I mean, there's risk to you as an employer to run a plan incorrectly.
Right. Yeah, the IRS and the DOL do care. So now this particular article actually did just involve investment fees, and it made sense because it was about somebody inside a non-ERISA 403b plan, which led me to the conclusion or the realization that, one, we hadn't talked about 403b plans much, I don't think, and that also means we hadn't talked about non-ERISA 403b plans at all, and we've been spending all this time talking about things that were ERISA, all right? So let's spend a little bit of time talking about the difference about what ERISA versus non-ERISA is, and what a bad 403b plan can look like. Does that sound okay?
Yes, and on 403b plans, this is an issue because for a long time it was kind of squishy, wasn't it? Like people didn't really worry about it too much. Oh, it's a nonprofit. Oh, it's, all of these things. Oh, let's not worry about it.
Right.
What happened?
But what exactly, that was the thought. Oh, you're right. It's a nonprofit. Nobody cares about it.
Still employees.
Yeah. So a non-ERISA 403b plan does not have the DOL, which is ERISA, looking at it, but it has the IRS looking at it. Now, it was several years ago. I've been doing this so long, I've forgotten how long ago, but the IRS had a specific program where they were looking at 403b plans, and they ended up looking at a lot of non-ERISA 403b plans. They thought they were non-ERISA 403b plans. The IRS disagreed and said they were operating as ERISA 403b plans. So they had a whole lot of corrections, a lot of fees. Even though they were not-for-profits, they still had a lot of fix-up work to do. So don't think just because you're a not-for-profit, the IRS and the Department of Labor is going to let you skate. They are not. Okay?
And it really comes down to employees. It matters what happens to employees,
right,
whether or not you're in a nonprofit or not.
Right.
And it matters what happens on taxes and how you pay them as an employer, whether you're a nonprofit or not.
Right. So, and the employees' taxes.
And the employees'
taxes. So the big difference between an ERISA plan and a non-ERISA plan is they both are still subject to IRS rules, but the non-ERISA plans are not subject to the Department of Labor rules, but that also means they don't have some of the same protections that ERISA covered plans do. Now, the first marker, definition, or whatever of something being non-ERISA is whether or not it has an employer contribution in it. If a plan has employer money in it, it is by definition ERISA. If it doesn't have employer money in it, it's possibly not ERISA. All right. The other thing is a ERISA plan, for the most part, has all or almost all of the investments in one place. Like when we're doing our ERISA 403b plans, the money's all at American Funds or Principal or Voya or Empower or One America or whatever. So with the non-ERISA 403b plans, these usually work best for your large institutions, your hospitals, your school districts, your large churches, things like that, because they're sending the money everywhere. They've got many different places that the money goes to.
Is there a limit?
Yeah, there actually is a limit, kind of. It's not a number, but in the rules it is said that the employer can have some kind of reasonable limit as to how many different places they're sending the money to. Reasonable is not defined. I think it's a function of how large and sophisticated the organization is. All right.
And bottom line, whether your bookkeeper's brain will explode.
Something like that, exactly. Now, also, the way the rules for non-ERISA 403b plans are written, we basically can't get involved.
Because that makes it an ERISA plan, right? The employer's made a fiduciary responsibility.
Something like that. Yeah, basically, we're excluded, and the financial advisors that we normally deal with that want to help with a 403b plan, with the way they want to help, that's going to make it an ERISA plan. Okay? So we've talked about the IRS program. We've talked about the difference between ERISA and non-ERISA. Yes.
But one thing I want to say, it's not bad to be an ERISA plan.
No,
it's just if you are an ERISA plan, you need to act in certain ways.
Yes.
So not to be discouraging of, oh my God, we need to run away from this. It's just like if you're going to jump into the pond, know you're there. And if you're not swimming right, come on out and we'll dry you.
I was thinking, know whether or not you're jumping into the shallow end or jumping into the deep end.
Right.
So, yeah. So, because we are talking about bad retirement plans and bad ERISA, bad 403b plans.
Yeah, I'd say troubled.
No.
Oh, this is
no,
bad? Okay.
That's you being Katherine. No,
Okay.
no. This was a bad plan. All right. So an advisor brought a prospect from a nonprofit that they were very heavily involved with to us and said, "Can you help?" And we said, "Of course." All right. And we started. This was a large employer, hundreds and hundreds of employees, and they thought they had a non-ERISA 403b plan. But this company had a brand new CFO in town, and she didn't think something was quite right. So she asked us to have a look at it. And, well, there are a couple of instances, things to point out very, very quickly, that it wasn't a non-ERISA plan. Number one was there were employer contributions in the plan. That's a big kicker right there. Okay. Number two, when they did finally find the adoption agreement, again, another red flag when you can't find the adoption agreement. When they finally forwarded the adoption agreement onto us, how long did it take me to find the problem?
I think it was 2 sentences.
Something like that. And do you remember what those sentences were?
Don't use this if you don't want to be in a ERISA plan.
Yeah, right. So basically, the adoption agreement said, do not use this for non-ERISA plans. And guess what? They did. So.
And isn't there another thing in terms of the number of actual participants contributing versus how many people were in the plan?
Okay, good point. So because I think that at the time there were about 400 employees, so that meant there were 400 participants, which is more than 100, which means it needs an
audit, a
large plan audit. So we had lots of there's lots of CPA work to come. So now this was not terminal because we found the problem, and the IRS is very happy, and the DOL is very happy when you go and fix your own mistakes. It took a while, but after gathering all the records and getting all the large plan audits caught up, making sure the plan documents were done, and making sure that everybody's money was in the right account, we now have a good.
Great ERISA 403b plan.
We have a great ERISA 403b plan.
And they're actually using it pretty heavily.
They are using it very heavily.
A big benefit for them now.
It's been a big success story. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, so bottom line, if you have a 403b plan or you are working or attached to a not-for-profit and you'd like to figure out if the retirement plan is what the company needs or it's appropriate or anything like that, please contact us at
hunterbenefits.com is our website, and email us at sales@hunterbenefits.com.
so thank you very much for watching us this afternoon.
Happy September.
Happy September, and
The leaves are turning.
Here's to you, Dad.